To be completely honest, this episode, one, took me by surprise. I always thought it was going to be a pretty good episode, but there were some moments in here that were handled extremely well. Like, there were some beautiful ass moments, and obviously I'll go through them, but the one thing that holds this episode back, which I feel like at this point should be an obvious thing, is the animation, right? There is points in this episode where the animation is actually not all too bad. The beginning Nutcracker fight, in my opinion, was actually pretty well done, but everything from there was kind of just like the same stuff we've seen time and time again. It's unfortunate, but I feel like the beautiful moments in this episode really make up for it. I feel like the effort put into showcasing a lot of different events, characters, and just the emotion that these characters are portraying, as well as the music behind it, just couples beautifully with one another. As usual, every single week, I feel like I gotta say this so I don't get witch hunted in the comments. I'm not referencing back to the manga. I feel like I enjoy the series a lot more when I'm looking at it from like an anime only perspective and not referencing back to the manga. I feel like I enjoy it more and you guys will also enjoy it more. So with that being said, let's get started. I think the first thing I want to point out throughout the entirety of the episode is more attention to detail. I feel like this episode really played closer attention to character models. There's obviously situations throughout the entire episode where stuff was looking a little bit goofy and there was a lot of still frames as usual in the animation and basically all the usual repetitive stuff we've seen throughout the other episodes, and it really does bring it down when you're looking for it, but I feel like they hit it pretty well throughout the episode. I feel like they've done a good job kind of shifting attention away from some of these more lackluster moments and emphasizing the more emotional moments, the more crisper moments, which I feel like they did put a lot more effort into the character models in a lot of different ways. There was a lot more emphasis on the eyes in this episode as well. There was a lot more emphasis on Kaneki, Yuri, Matsuki. Like, it really felt like they were pulling a lot of attention to these characters, and I feel like they've done a good job with it. I feel like they got exactly what they wanted from adding all this emotion and adding all this emphasis to that, you know, scenario or character in general, and it paid off. I feel like a lot of people will like this episode for that because there's some really good moments. I keep saying it, but the first really good moment is the Yuri and Matsuki situation. I feel like that was just like spot on. You get the insanity that is Yuri going into frame 4 and him kind of losing control of himself, and it really showcases his character, what he goes through mentally, and that was the thing I really liked because I obviously know what Yuri's character is like, but from anime only perspective, you're still kind of coming to understand his characters, you're still learning about him, and this showcases heavily with what he is about. This showcases his development, this showcases everything that's wrong with him, and I think they've done a really good job kind of portraying the insanity for him. The voices in his head was taking over, you know, the power, he was losing control, and he was just all over the place, and just like the scene itself with him going out of control and like the background they used and the music, it was just spot on in my opinion. And then they back it up with this like really touching scene, obviously with Matsuki and Yuri, and Matsuki comforting Yuri using her Kagane, which is the first time you actually see it, so you know there's emotion there. You know this is a big moment for Matsuki as well, this is a big moment for Yuri, and I feel like they just hit the nail on the head. Like I really appreciated that scene. I really think that they put a lot of effort in there to showcase the craziness of these characters and what they go through and how destructive they truly are. So from there, the Nutcracker fight was, in my opinion, pretty well handled. At least the beginning bit when there was actually like fighting sequences. For some reason, they had a easier opportunity with Nutcracker. I don't know why. I feel like every time I've seen the Nutcracker fight, there's been a lot more fluidity in the animation, a lot more emphasis on, you know, moving scenes and moving counterparts, and I'm not sure if I'm the only one that's seeing that, but for some reason I just get that gist. I just look at the Nutcracker fight and I'm like, oh, you know, this is looking pretty good. They're actually putting a lot more detail into this animation and into the fighting itself, and you know, it's obviously lackluster, you know, here and there, and it's not as crazy as fucking Madhouse or anything like that, but you know, it felt above everything else we got, so it's odd to me. I feel like every time I see Nutcracker, that was always the situation. They've done a good job with that, obviously giving a lot more context to Shirazu as a character as well. Seeing Seiko, well, you don't necessarily see Seiko, but we finally got Seiko out of her room and starting to be an investigator and basically showcasing her utmost feelings towards Hayase, how much respect she has for him and how much she wants to help him as well. So she was all over the place, and then Shirazu's like, look, we need to save Hayase, you know, he's gonna die if we don't help him, if we don't defeat Nutcracker, and then she ultimately comes through and helps Shirazu and this other investigator to take down Nutcracker. So I like that, to be honest. I did like that Nutcracker fight. There was probably a little bit too much emphasis on it, but, you know, I'm not going to complain about that. From there, there's Suzuya situation, which, to be completely honest, not really the biggest fan of. That felt pretty lackluster to me. They tried to put emotion through it, and I guess some people will like it, some people won't like it. For me, I didn't really care for it all too much. I feel like that was the lowest point in the entirety of the episode. It just felt very stiff and stale, and it was very forceful to a degree. But then again, that's just me. I don't know if anyone else felt like that, but they did try and put a little bit of emotion in it, and they did get rid of Big Madam, so I guess that's that. I don't want to point this out specifically. They did obviously introduce Scarecrow specifically in this episode. I'm not too sure how I feel about this. Obviously, if you're a manga reader, you know exactly who Scarecrow is, but for anime only watchers, we'll keep it at that. It felt a little bit weird that they actually played emphasis on that character, considering everything that's happened, considering they've been teasing Scarecrow for a good bit, but they've never actually put a specific, obviously, scene onto him. So I don't know. I understand he plays a role into that situation, that scenario that happened in the episode, but I didn't think that actually showcased it. I feel like it would have been a lot better to maybe give a glimpse of him, and then all the speaker stuff happens and the audio comes through with Hayase versing Takizawa, and then would have been like, oh, who done it? So I feel like that would have been a better approach, just to give him that element of mystery even more, you know, kind of shroud his character. I feel like showing him at this point is just kind of counterintuitive, but at the same time it's not. I'm not really sure, to be honest. Like, I just felt weird. I feel like they could have easily left him out and teased it a more mysterious way to kind of hype people up for that character, but I don't know, that's just me. Last but not least, the Takizawa and Kaneki fight. This was the kind of pristine of the entire episode. A lot of stuff happened in it. Obviously, Kaneki going throughout his head in the entirety of the fights, you know, back and forth. He's fighting Takizawa, he's in his head talking to Kaneki, and it's this back and forth cycle, and I feel like they captured it pretty well. There was one moment, however, that I was a little bit disappointed in, and that was the younger version of Kaneki. It was a child, is talking to Hayase. That's a very emotional scene. I felt like they just missed it. They had, you know, a vision, they had like something there for it, but it just felt extremely flat. I don't know if it was me, I don't know if it's the character design, I don't know if it just seemed a little bit oddly placed, if that makes sense. I don't know. Honestly, I can't put my finger on it, but they just missed it. It was nice. I felt like it was, you know, good to an extent, but it could have been so much more better. It had been so much more emphasized with the music, or with a little bit more animation, or just styling or anything like that. Just a little bit more emphasis on it, maybe. But regardless, I did enjoy the conflict, obviously, in Kaneki's mentality and how they kind of portrayed it throughout the episode, because they leak it into the actual fight as well. So you'll have Hayase versing Takizawa, and then they'll cut away to Hayase talking to Kaneki in his head, and then they'd kind of leak the audio or the conversation between Hayase and Kaneki in his head back into the Takizawa and Hayase fight. So it kind of flows pretty well, in my opinion. I feel like it wasn't too stop and starty. In that aspect, they handled it well. But what really got me is the fact that they put Unravel in the end of this episode, which obviously I shouldn't have to explain what Unravel is. You know, it's the opening song for Tokyo Ghoul, but it's phenomenal, right? And it was a surprise because you don't see it coming. You know what I mean? Like, obviously TK, the person that sings Unravel, was not teased at all for Tokyo Ghoul. And I specifically thought, you know, it'd be nice if they bring him back to do more music, because his music fits Tokyo Ghoul extremely well. It may not be new music by him, but the fact that they put Unravel in this episode, especially towards the Kaneki and Hayase situation, fit perfectly. I'm really glad they took that approach and just placed that music in there. I feel like a lot of people will appreciate that, and it just overall gives a lot more impact to the scene between Hayase and Kaneki in itself. And Hayase coming to the realization and accepting Kaneki, basically, that he needs this power to be able to defeat Takizawa. It was beautiful. It was nice. I'm glad they put that in there. The fight itself was a bit back and forth. You know, there were some nice moments, there were some weird moments. Hinami came into the picture. There was some goofy scenes in there as well, but overall I feel like it was pretty well handled. You get a good clear picture of Takizawa's character and how he kind of progresses into the fight, and obviously starting to form his half Kaguya state, which was the mask that was forming on his head, and he slowly starts to creep out of control, and you get a good scale of Takizawa's character, like how strong he truly is, just with how much Hayase as well as Hinami was struggling throughout the ending of the episode. So I think at this point, the thing that I would love to see the most is animation. Just, you know, a bit more crisper, a bit more detailed, a bit more motion, fluidity, whatever, but that's always going to be a thing throughout this season. So that's basically it. So with that being said, what did you guys think of the episode? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you feel like there was some beautiful moments in it? Did the animation put you off? How did you feel towards the overall episode? episode. Me personally, I actually enjoyed it. I feel like they've done a pretty good job. I feel like it flowed pretty well, and they put a lot of emphasis on a lot of different characters and emotion, and really kind of upscaled some nice, beautiful moments. So with that being said, I'm actually going to end the video off here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.